Welcome to the 122nd episode of the Flipped Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Cockrum. My co-host, Joan Brown, is joining us shortly. She is in the middle of her son's track meet, so she will join us in just a minute or two. But our guest today is Kasey Bell. Kasey, can you tell us what your role in education is?
Hi, I'm Kasey. I'm from the Dallas, Texas area, and I am currently a digital learning consultant for one of the 20 regional service centers that we have in Texas. So we offer services for our school districts, which is 90 plus school districts and charter schools. So I'm out on campuses doing training and offering consulting and things like that. I'm also a blogger on shakeuplearning.com and a certified Google teacher and authorized Google education trainer. So I do spend a lot of my time in the Google world. So that's a job in itself. So.
And so we since Joan and I are both also Google certified teachers, we talk quite frequently about Google products. And the topic of today's episode is some of these Google treasures, maybe some of the lesser known Google tools that Kasey and we find very beneficial for educators. So Kasey, can you tell us maybe one of your favorite tools that might be a little bit lesser known?
Sure. Actually, this has become a series on the blog, the Golden Treasures of Google, just sort of the lesser-known tools. But I've only done 4 parts, and I don't see the end anytime soon because I find something, and as a matter of fact, I found 2 new things that I wanted to add today. And the first one is super cool. I don't know how I've never seen this, but it's called teachparentstech.org. And this is made by Google. And at the top, it says, send your parents a tech support package. And so basically, you just check the box. Hello, mom or dad. I'm really shocked, impressed, worried, or jazzed that you've been using your computer these days. And you basically send them tutorials like how to copy and paste, how to change your wallpaper, all those kinds of things. So it's kind of hilarious, but it's really useful. And so you can create and sort of send these packages. And this has been going around a lot today on Twitter, and people were talking about using it with their teachers as well. It's not just parents that need this, but so that's teachparentstech.org, and down at the bottom it does say that it was built by a few folks over at Google. So it looks very cool. I will be adding this to my list. The other one that I found out about today was a new Chrome extension called Password Alert. And that's actually going to protect your password from phishing, your Google account password. So I've only installed it today, but it's gonna let you know if anything is going on with your password, or if you're using it in the wrong places. So a nice little protection there from Google.
That's good because you use your Google password for so many different things now that if it's compromised, you could lose a lot of important data.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also one of those things to try to teach good digital citizenship that we've got to have these good and strong passwords because we do have a lot of critical data behind those accounts. Had you seen that one, Troy?
I just seen it tweeted out, but I hadn't had a chance to check it. I use LastPass myself to protect
me too.
passwords. But I'll take a look at it and see what it is. But it's funny because our 4th graders today were using their Google accounts for the first time in like a month, and like 4 or 5 of them came up to ask me their their passwords because they couldn't remember, and so I had to reset their passwords, and the simplicity of their passwords was just ridiculous, and it's just like, I could have guessed every single one of their passwords probably in 2 minutes just by asking them a couple of questions. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I've actually had a student guess mine.
Really?
I've Well, because I had a certain scheme that I would teach, and it has to do with my, figuring out a favorite TV show, and I say, and then you list all the characters, and then we talked about numbers, and we talked about numbers being something you always wanted to achieve. Whether it be I want to be able to do 10 pull-ups, so my number's 10, or maybe it's something you want to achieve. I want to get to my 16th birthday, or whatever it is. You come up with a number. And it was really funny because they looked around my classroom, and I happened to have a bobblehead of something, and they managed to guess it. So I quickly changed that one. Just so you know. You got to watch out.
Smart.
They are. They're very clever. Yeah. And just so you know, my son just finished, and he did get first in his heat, so I'm very proud, Mom, and we can move on now.
Awesome.
And Joan, did you hear this teachparentstech.org website?
I did, and I'm going to look into that right away. We are trying our best to do that kind of outreach at all the schools where so many parents really do want to understand what's going on. And I think, Google is obviously responding to that need in all the schools. I mean, beyond just the digital citizenship with the kids, it's further than that. So I'm going to look into it. I appreciate you bringing it up.
It sounds like sounds like a polite way to use, let me Google that for you.
Mm-hmm. A little bit. It even has a number at the top right now. 91,914 parents have been served.
Excellent.
So what other Google tools do you have for us?
Well, going through these lists, and I don't want to just read to anyone, but the data tools that Google has available are so powerful. And when I was introduced to these, I was actually a little overwhelmed. Like, what is this? What do I do with this? The first time I was in the Google offices, I looked up on the TVs, and they have the Google Trends, the hot trends going, and of course it's in this very visual way that you can see it. And so I have that linked on, this is in part 2, but Google Trends will show you in real time what people are searching for. So, it's very spot on. If you go right now, you're going to see the exact things that people are looking for.
So one question is it classroom friendly? I mean, could you display this in your class as like a current events unit or something like that?
Some,
yeah, it probably depends on the day.
Okay. So.
I wouldn't make that an absolute, but definitely in secondary, I think it would be, useful, and that you can see it, and you can actually turn the trends into a wallpaper as well, if you want to have that as your own wallpaper. Like right now, I'm looking at it CNN. And you can customize the screen, so you can choose how many you want to see in the grid, or if you just want to see one. So let's see, Dragon Ball for some reason is really popular right now, so it's always kind of interesting to see. But this is definitely, I think, has a lot of implications, not only for social studies but math, in terms of the data that you can pull from these different types of tools like this. But current events, for sure, there's a great tie-in. But I love how the hot trends is so visual. And they also did a year in search. Mm-hmm. So there's an entire section dedicated to 2014 where you can see and explore visually what everyone was searching for in 2014.
Now, Google Trends is also searchable. I know the big news item came out about 2 years ago that they could predict where there were going to be flu outbreaks based on their search trends. And I just was showing a group of teachers this because they're going to be studying the book Hot Zone, which is all about epidemics and outbreaks of, like Ebola. And they were fascinated by looking for any kind of symptoms as a search item. And then our math teacher is taking this on too to look at exponential growth. So there's all kinds of ways that you can use it as maybe your set that you want to, you know, bring something in. You could use it as a discussion piece. It's amazing the interest level that you'll get when someone sees something that's current now, as opposed to something that has been canned for a few years. So it's definitely worth using Google Trends, especially if you're worried about it. You can always do your search, and you can use some of the graphs that they have. You can even, you know, copy those, put them in a PowerPoint, whatever you're using, and say, hey, I just looked this up this morning, and here's what we got.
You could also, I would think, possibly, can you set it by country or by region or anything like that, and see if different parts of the country are searching for different things?
Well, Trends works one way, but there's another tool that goes along with it called Correlate. Google Correlate will allow you to find correlations between data, and they have actually really great comic book explanation of how Correlate works, and it explains that correlation is not causation, so it's actually a really good teaching tool to help students understand. Like Joan's example with the flu, you know, just because people are searching for the flu doesn't necessarily mean they have the flu, but there is a correlation, you know, most of the time when they find those things. So one of the ways you can correlate is across the U.S. So you can see by state what people are searching for. And the example I have embedded in the post is I just searched for snow because it happened to be that time of year when there was a lot of snow in the U.S., and so you could see that and compare that across the U.S. states. And it is, you know, pretty much showing a correlation to where they get more snow as well. So, but they also have the flu trends in there as well. But it's a great way. I mean, you could search for current events like you know, when the Ebola outbreak happened and things like that. So even right now, I'm sure you can find search trends with what's going on in Baltimore.
Most definitely, and we're coming up on a presidential election. So all of the hot issues that they're going to be talking about and where they are hotter in the country is going to be showing up in trends all the time. So that's worth using if you're a civics teacher or even going to run this election as like a simulation.
You know what would find interesting too is during, like, say, a presidential debate, seeing what's being searched and discuss what does the general public know about these topics and why are they searching them all of a sudden and things like that.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. The another
Kasey,
one that I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, do you know how current it is? I mean, is it up to the minute data? Do you think?
I think it's almost up to the minute is the way I understand it, but I don't work there, so you know, but I think so, because even like if you went there right now, like I said, it's going to show you pretty accurately, you know, things that you know are hot topics right at the moment. So so I think it's pretty spot on. I'm sure there's got to be some kind of delay in it, but do you know about the Inground Viewer as well?
That's one of my favorites for English teachers.
Explain what that is.
So, you know, Google has Google Books, and they basically have taken like 5 million books and pulled all the data from those books, and you can search across all 5 million books for keywords. So it's very interesting, and yes, and I was a language arts teacher as well, so I find it extremely interesting to look at those things. The example that is on the main page for the Inground Viewer, and that's the letter N and then GRAM. But I hope everybody can translate my East Texas accent as well. But they're comparing Frankenstein, Albert Einstein, and Sherlock Holmes. And so you can see kind of how those appear in the books from like 1800 to 2000, and the spike that Frankenstein has is quite interesting. So anyway, it's 5 million books over 500 years. an enormous amount of data. And even though you're talking about a lot of fiction that's in that, there's still a lot of information about time periods and when things were written that's embedded even in fictional text. So I think it's very interesting. I think it would be a great tool to use and to research, when you're researching the Holocaust or World War II and things like that, and see what kind of keywords came out during those time periods. I think would be very powerful in the classroom.
My favorite, when I show it to the English teachers, I talk about how they read older texts. They read Dickens, they read Shakespeare, they read something that occasionally the words used are old-fashioned. And you give them the opportunity, the kids, the opportunity to use Inground Viewer to see, well, when was this word popular? And then to postulate, well, why do you think it declined? We don't use the word, say, persnickety anymore. Wonder why. What has replaced it? What are we using, and why is our language changing? And it's a great discussion piece.
That's a really good point. Yeah, the vocabulary, you can essentially see it evolve over time.
Mm-hmm.
You could also probably see research interests, especially at the university level, as what kind of terms are people publishing academic research about and things like that, and why is it growing or why has it disappeared and things like that.
Exactly. Very interesting. And another thing that I love in terms of the lesser known tools are all the different ways that you can search Google and the different search engines that they have. And so one of my favorite ones, I think we've already sort of mentioned this one earlier, is the Let Me Google That For You. That one is like mic drop crowd winner when you show that in any kind of presentation. So yeah, usually everybody's just like, what? And they just find it so entertaining. And so essentially what this tool will do, and I'm sure you two know, but once you type in a search, it's going to screen record how to search for that, basically what keywords to type in to find the answer. And so it's actually, I see it as sort of a sarcastic answer when someone asks you a question, and if I don't know the answer, what do? I go Google it.
Right.
And especially when I was an instructional technologist in a school district, when they would ask me a question, that's what I did. So hold on, let me Google that for you. So it sort of becomes a joke. And by the way, you can help support their cause on the website. You can send them donations, and they'll send you stickers. So if you're into the stickers on your laptop, you can get the Let Me Google That For You sticker added to your laptop. So that one's always really good. I probably should have ended with that one. Like I said, that's the one. Like I feel like after I show people what that does, they're just done and they're so excited. They're like, that's the best thing ever. I actually had someone suggest in Wisconsin a few weeks ago. She said she had students use that to show her how they found their answer. So she used it sort of as a documentation tool for students to prove how they searched to find the answer. So I thought that was pretty good.
Oh, that is I also like the idea, excuse the track meet in the background, I know you heard it. I like the idea, too, to empower the students with it, which your teacher was talking about, but also there are lots of times in class that a student will ask a question that you just don't know the answer to. So you can offer that up to the class and say, hey, anybody who finds it, just use the Let Me Google That For You so I see how you found that answer. Let them be the lead on a few of these lessons, and that way they feel really empowered to learn more.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And, I know my students were always, you don't know the answer, and when you try to flip the question on them, and, it's okay that the teacher doesn't know everything, and sometimes it's hard for the kids to realize that, but also to use that as a teaching moment. Well, I don't know, but why don't you look that up, which makes me also think of another tool, a Google a Day tool, which is really fun. And that's actually not in this list, but it's in the future list. But that's a little searching game that you can play with your students, and it times them, and they're given something to research. They have to find the answer to a question, and so it's looking to see how well they can put in the right keywords to find the answer. So that's a cool way to help improve student searching skills as well.
Just so people know, a Google a day, they can't get the answer usually with just one Google. They've actually set it up so that it's a non-Googleable question, at least to a point. You have to, I believe I've never seen it with fewer than 3 searches to get the full answer. And I think that leads to a teaching what is a non-Googleable question and why. And to see if the kids can create a Google a day for their classmates, that they would have to do minimum of 3 searches in order to get the final answer. So, and also just on their site there, Google a day, they've got lesson plans by subject area. So if you teach social studies, you can pull a social studies Google a day. If you teach English, you can do that. It's really well done.
Yes, that's a great idea. I love putting that back on the students to have them develop those questions that are not, found in one search. That makes it a lot more challenging.
Well, and it's funny that Joan used the term a Googleable question because it's getting to the point where there's not many left that you can't find the answer to by Googling it. And I mean, you can do math problems in a search. You can find your phone in a search. I mean, it's amazing what you can do in a search that saying to students it has to be a non-Googleable question is getting harder and harder to find those questions.
I'm afraid and I'm afraid eventually you're going to be able to go, well, how do I feel about? And it'll tell you.
Yeah, well, yeah, you probably can. And it's become so much easier to search for things, that we used to try to tell our students, because they would just type in like their exact question, in the tiny little search box that we had just a few years ago. They would just type in the whole question, and you knew what path that was leading them toward. But now you can pretty much do that, and it's still going to give you what you want. So those skills are becoming, I think, less important. I mean, you don't have to know Boolean operators anymore. You don't have to know. Of course, they do make things easier in using those advanced searches, but the search engines have become so much better.
Oh, yeah.
And they remember things too. That's been frustrating to me lately because I did a search for the actual Big Bang Theory, and now my phone keeps telling me, tonight the Big Bang Theory is on. And I'm like, no, I was searching for the actual Big Bang Theory. Stop trying to predict what I want to know.
That's funny. Yeah, that's true.
So I know you did some treasures. I was actually at a Google Summit, and that's where we met, and you did a lot of treasures that had to do with maps.
Yes, there are a ton for Google Maps. The first one that I usually talk about is My Maps, and I feel like a lot of people don't know that exists. mymaps.google.com, where you can actually create your own interactive maps with layers and links and pictures, and create sort of interactive lessons for your students just using the Google Maps. I think the first experience I had with actually an activity with that was at the Google Teacher Academy in Austin when Danny Silva made the Amazing Race out of it. And so we would literally travel through the map, that was our race, but we had all these tasks to complete. And so we had a Google form that was linked inside of every clue, and then as soon as we submitted our response, we would get the next clue, which took us to another map. So there were several maps involved in that process, but that was a really fun activity. Have you done much with it, Joan?
Yes, we have a lot in our school. I have a wonderful civics teacher who uses it to talk about diversity, and we map out, all the kids share, and they map out where they're from, you know, their heritage. We've done it in math, where we were actually mapping all the different languages in the school and then determining percentages of how many kids speak each language. I have done so many sessions on using it for like the explorers, or using it for battles, or because as a previous history teacher, I just see it as the way to go. Probably the best one, though, I will tell you, and I was so impressed. This teacher used it for kids to research sustainability throughout the world, and we actually published these maps in layers. They did each class did different countries and looked at their sustainability efforts, and then we put all classes together in one interactive map, and we published that for parents to see all the work the kids did on the research. It's really, really well done.
That's really cool. Do you have that link somewhere where the public can see it?
It was not a public link. I hate to say it, and the reason we chose not to is because the kids actually had some names in there, but we did offer it up for people to see for a short while, as the parents could look at it. If I went through and got rid of all the names, I could publish it. Yes. We're doing it again this year, so maybe we'll have it right this time. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I used it because my school had Chromebooks and we couldn't use Google Earth, but I wanted to make Google Lit Trips, so we used my maps to track like Call of the Wild and all the stops that they made through Alaska. And then I also used it with To Kill a Mockingbird, and we'd go to Monroeville, Alabama, and look at like street view of the locations from the book that were actual locations, and so the kids could see, what does the town look like now today? What does the road look like? How far is the school from our house? And things like that, so they could kind of just in their head get a mental picture of what they were talking about in the book.
That's important. Teachers know that the tools in there, they've got the measurement tools, which are really helpful. Even if you're doing, just basic geography, you can change it to kilometers, meter. You can change it to standard miles. It's really pretty sweet.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. I definitely have some plans I would love to do for games. I did create sort of along the same Amazing Race idea and activity for a professional development group. And I just did it really short, but I did the same thing where they had the clues and they had to enter into a Google form before they got the next clue. So it was testing their Google skills to see how well they knew how to use the different tools. So, and Google Lit Trips was on that list as well, Troy, that you brought that up. And Lit Trips are amazing, and it is so strange that you still can't use Earth on a Chromebook. But the Lit Trips, I think even now you're seeing so much overlap between what Google Earth and Google Maps are doing. Even when you pull up, Street View and the satellite view, I think we're eventually sort of merging those two worlds. Yeah. And there's so many tools that work with all of those. One tool that I think is really fun. Have you seen Smarty Pins?
Yeah, but it's been a while. Remind me what that is.
So it's a geography and trivia game that you play on Google Maps, and so it'll generate a random trivia question, and so it works on a little point system. But it's a great little tool. They have several different topics, and it's easy to miss the topics at the very first, where you can choose them and not just do the random one. But arts and culture, science and geography, sports and games, entertainment, history, and current events. So it's not just about geography. It might be about people who are from certain locations and things like that. The other one that's sort of a game, and there's actually a lot of these. The more I dig, the more I find. A lot of these are third parties that are making use of Google Maps, but GeoGuessr.
Yep.
And that's another game using Street View, and it basically will drop the player in a random location, and so you have to use your contextual clues. to figure out where you're located, and then you have to go drop a pin where you think it is on the map. And so that's really interesting. You know, sometimes you get little clues like the language that appears on a sign might be a giveaway, but I have not fared very well playing that game myself. I think I need to brush up on my geography.
It is a blast to play, and my son, who is in 6th grade, will egg me. He'll say, "Please, let's go play it for a little while." And I've presented this to world language teachers because you can create your own. So if that's a French teacher, they can pick all the countries in the world where they speak French, and that way the kids are looking for more cultural clues, not necessarily just the language clue. And they can actually choose the location, so they can plop them right down in the middle of Paris and make it a little simpler because they're going to see the Eiffel Tower. Whereas, you know, maybe a French-speaking island, you know, they're not going to quite catch all those context clues, and that's going to be a great discussion as to all the different cultural parts of the language. Just an option for teachers that happen to be, sometimes language, we forget that part.
Was it you that I was talking to? I'm sorry. Joan, did you go to the Geo conference? Was that you?
No, I have not been there, but I do have a lot of friends that use maps quite a bit, extensively, yes.
I actually on GeoGuessr, I kind of wonder if the general site kind of picks some of the images, because I actually had one that was so remote. There was a grizzly bear standing in the middle of the road, and I went for miles down the road trying to find anything but trees and could not. And I'm like, I have absolutely no idea where to guess for this because I could not find any context clues except for evergreen trees and a grizzly bear.
Yeah, some of them are pretty remote. Do you remember where that one actually ended up being?
I think it ended up being like really far north Canada.
Oh yeah, that's cool. You were bringing up Paris, and then that reminded me of another tool, Google Nightwalk. Have you seen Google Nightwalk?
I have not.
So right now, and as far as I know, there's only one version, and it is in Marseille, in France. And so you can take a virtual tour at night through Marseille, and you have a tour guide who will walk you through. And the first thing it'll tell you at the beginning, is to put on your headphones so that you can listen. And it uses Street View, and you navigate wherever you want to go throughout the city, and then you'll learn as you walk. And so it's called Google Nightwalk. I have great hopes that they add a few more cities to that.
That because our 8th graders always go to Gettysburg on their class trip and do like a ghost tour. That'd be cool if they could add something like that to I'm sure there's all those kind of things all across the world that they could add in.
Oh yeah. It would be really fun to have that, especially in some of the major parts of the world that our students are studying as well.
I like to, just as we're talking about maps, I like one thing I noticed a couple weeks back. You can upload through your Google Plus. You can upload images to maps and tag where they are, and then you can either make them public. You can make them by just your friends see them or things like that. And we all know Jim Sill, and what I was doing was searching for some photospheres on maps, and I saw a button that said like, look at your friends' photospheres or something like that, and I clicked on Jim Sill, and he had a ton of them all around the world, and I could just see where people in my Google Plus circles had taken these awesome pictures, and it was all through maps, and it was connected to the locations on the maps and things.
I love Photosphere. That's a really neat app to play with. And I think they did actually make some improvements to the way it integrates with maps so that it's not so separate. It was sort of separate, I think, at first when you were adding them. But I think they're fully integrating it like you're talking about now. But the ability to create an entire sphere of a photo, and you'll notice when people are doing it that I'm the idiot in the middle of the room, you know, like holding my phone up and doing all this. And that's that when people are like, what are you doing? I'm taking a photosphere. You'll see it in a little bit. And there's some beautiful ones so essentially, you know, we're mapping the world, and our students can take these virtual tours of pretty much anywhere we want to go, with whatever's in Street View combined with photospheres, which, you know, that's just growing limitless these days.
It is, and I got, based on Jim Sill's recommendation, I got the Ricoh Theta camera, which takes a photosphere in one image, and because I was having trouble stitching them together if a person would move in the shot or whatever, and you know, it's just amazing the shots that you can get now and upload to Google Maps, and you have to go to Street View to see them, or have a photosphere viewer. Otherwise, they just look like a distorted photo. Which I hope they start to fix that more, because people are like, "Can you send that photo to me?" And I'm like, "I can, but you're not gonna see it the same way it's supposed to be seen unless you know how to view a photosphere."
Right. Well, that camera looks pretty awesome too. I've seen Jim with it. How much do those run?
$250. So.
Yeah, I always have some ghosts in my photos. It never fails. Somebody has like a ghost-like quality.
Yeah. So I'm still kind of figuring out how to take. You know, I've got the remote set up now, so now I can set the camera on something and walk away from it. Before, my hand was like huge in the photo because I was holding the camera, but it's really taken some neat images, and I mean it has video as well, but I think once the price starts to go down, people will get them, you know, like, you know, all the time.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So what other?
Joan,
go ahead.
She's muted. No, I was just gonna say Joan was muted. I could see her smiling though.
I was just trying to think about how Jim got me to buy the GoPro. So there you have it. Just kind of nodding with all this.
Yeah.
You know, I got a GoPro Hero 4, the new one, the 4K for Christmas, and we took it to Hawaii. And I was using it for parasailing and ziplining and all that stuff. And I think I got a lemon. Mine totally kept locking up, and I'd have to pull it all the way out of the casing, pull the battery out, it wouldn't reset. And then somehow I flipped the camera, not the camera itself, but how it took images, went completely upside down. And so one of my zipline videos, which was like an hour long because I just left it going, and it was all upside down. So it's pretty interesting. It did take some incredible pictures, though.
Oh, I'm sure. I can't wait. I just got 2 at school, so I'm looking forward to using those.
Yeah, those are amazing, and they do take some super high quality pictures.
Interestingly enough, I mean, I had Google Glass, but I sold them because they don't make them anymore, and I was on to something else. But my soccer players last night were asking where my GoPro camera was, but they actually meant where was my Google Glass, and they were like, "Where's your GoPro?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "You know, your camera glasses," and I'm like, "Oh, that was Google Glass," you know. So all that stuff is getting so intermeshed now, it seems.
Oh yeah. My mom bought everybody in the family a GoPro, so we all looked like geeks with, we had the headgear, some had the chest gear, and yeah, these are not photos I would ever share with the public of, of what you look like with that thing mounted after you've been in the beach. It's pretty hilarious. So.
Didn't think about that. Yeah, that's. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about it either when I was geeking out over how cool the camera was, and I was like, oh, this is what I look like when I wear the camera. So, anyway, Some of the tools, and these aren't really tools, these are more initiatives that I shared last week, student initiatives that Google has going. And the first one on the list is the Google Science Fair, and that one was at the top of the list because the deadline is approaching. It's May 19th. But Google has tons of resources and lesson plans. They have an entire starter kit on the Google Science Fair website, and so that one is for ages 13 to 18, and that's a really cool opportunity for students. Have y'all had anyone participate in Google Science Fair?
No, we have not. I've showed it to the science teachers. We have we're in a private school, and we have a citywide science fair competition. So they like to plan for that, and it's actually, I mean, it's in the opposite time of year that the Google Science Fair is. So they're already science faired out. I haven't been able to convince any of them to try to take some of these really good ideas and push them towards the Google Science Fair.
I think that's pretty common. I think the fall is usually science fair for the rest of the world.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, some of the finalists are amazing what they come up with, and
It really is, and they can get a huge scholarship out of it too.
And that can even be a lesson for students to say, look, these are students similar in age to you, and look at some of these concepts they're coming up with.
Absolutely. That's really fun. Another project that I'm a huge fan of is the Made with Code project, which is actually designed to sort of close the gap between the gender gap that we have in the coding world, and try to encourage more girls and young women to take it up, although I think it's attracting boys to the project as well.
Yes, that's what I'm seeing. Anything that has the word code in it seems to get a preponderance of boys, and I know Google's challenged there to try to pull in the girls.
Well, my favorite picture, which is the one I have in the blog post, is of the coded dress. So their whole idea is to try to get girls interested in it by coding the things that they love. So they've sort of integrated it with fashion, and then they had a big Christmas tree lighting at the White House. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the last Christmas. And that was a really cool experience. The girls got to code all the trees and coordinate all of that from wherever they were, and then they all were invited to the White House to come see it. And they have that's in their whole video on the website. It's really cool.
We had on our podcast about 2 months ago, Dr. Kylie Pepler. She's from Indiana University, and she does some research on the e-textiles and how e-textiles help get female students involved more in coding and programming and things like that. So
that's going to be interesting to see how the e-textiles and the wearables, and it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, the whole maker movement and Google are kind of merging together, I think, and you're going to see a lot more of this coming into the classroom, because it's building into the whole idea of, instead of STEM, we're getting into STEAM, and as soon as you add the A with the arts, you've got graphics and you've got design that girls are going to start to see as an important part of what they want to do in the future. And I know that's a big push at our school, so I'm challenged to try to bring the girls in and see how to get them influenced, and so they'll move that direction in their career.
That's awesome, though. Are you trying to do like some kind of club with it, yeah, or?
I have a small coding group right now. Again, preponderance of boys, and so we're brainstorming how to get the girls in and get them started. I do know we do some 3D design, and the girls like that.
Have you done any of the projects from the website, from the Made with Code site?
Not yet, and that's an option that we're thinking about using for next year. We want to just start it afresh in the year.
It kind of ties into with Google's new CS First, their computer science club, which in essence takes you to the Scratch website, but it seems like they're making a huge push towards, and probably for obvious reasons, towards computer programming and getting more and more kids involved with computer programming and things like that.
Absolutely. They need a pool of young people to pull in, don't they?
Yeah. Well, and I was just Jamie Cassup. We all know Jamie Cassup, and I was at a Google Summit with him 2 weeks ago, and he said parents are parents who don't understand where the future is are still telling their kids, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer. He's like, be a computer programmer. You don't even have to go to college, and you can make lots of money being a computer programmer. He's just like, I wish more parents would realize that and start pushing their kids towards computer programming, because everything is going to need to be programmed in the future. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
You hit the nail on the head there. I have a friend from NASA saying they can't find enough coders at all. Hey, before my battery dies, can I bring up one of those treasures?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about ready to go. Google Story Builder. I think it is the sweetest, easiest thing to use after we've gone from coding to this. It is the simplest thing to teach perspective. So basically, to describe Google Story Builder, you get to play the part of two different people editing a document. And the example online, of course, is Hall & Oates. Excuse me.
Yeah, now, it used to be they did a search, but they took away the search part of it and just took it into Google Docs. So you choose the characters and what they want to say, and it kind of streams a video for you of that. So you can go ahead and continue now, Joan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I was showing this to a group of English teachers, and off the cuff, I used the two characters, husband and wife. And the wife starts by typing in her document the worst chores are the household chores. And the husband comes in and edits, and he removes the words household chores, and he says the yard work. And then the wife comes back and she says, yes, but you get to be outside. And then the husband writes, with all the heat and mosquitoes, and so it goes back and forth with two different perspectives. And the teachers that I was showing it to, the English teachers, were talking so much about how they could use that with literature and have the kids take two characters and come up with a little story that they would go back and forth with different perspectives. So it does have a place. The beauty is a student can learn how to use it in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, it's simple. We used it, we had an open house a couple months ago, and our principal wanted to do videos about, he wanted each kid to write a sentence, what is their favorite thing about our school, and he wanted to have them hold up a whiteboard or something. He couldn't figure out how to do it, and I said, and he wanted to do it by class, and so I said, well, why don't we have the teacher's name, type something like, what's your favorite thing about our school, and then each student, because you can put, I think, as many characters as you want, and we just made these little videos of all the students typing in their what their favorite thing is, and then I recorded their voice reading it, and then just went into Camtasia and added the voiceover to the Story Builder video. So it's a pretty neat little program.
Yeah, so you're actually making a video and you can download it, and that's a key factor, because you could edit them all together, you could add more to it. Yes.
And I was trying to pull up, I have an example in the presentation that I did with this of students using Doc Story Builder to tell the story of the atom. And so each character is all of the different scientists across the different time periods who, thought the atom was this, and then the next guy comes in and no, this is what the atom is. And so it shows the history, the story of the atom as told by all the scientists who researched it and learned about it. So I thought that was one of the really cool ways I saw students using it.
That is a neat way. I didn't thought about that.
But I always show the Hall & Oates commercial. Everybody likes that.
So you've given us lots of great tools, Kasey. Can you tell the listeners where they might be able to find more about you and the tools that you're finding interesting and blogging about?
Sure. My website and blog is shakeuplearning.com, and you can email me at Kasey, Kasey, at shakeuplearning.com. I am Shake Up Learning on Twitter, and Kasey Bell, and Shake Up Learning on Google+. So, but if you go to the website, you can pretty much connect with me in whatever form you prefer. And I'm happy to connect and answer questions, and love learning new tools as well. So send me things. I will share it with the world.
Well, thank you for your time. I think we love talking about Google tools. I've got a whole list here of things that I need to revisit or go learn more about. And so, we love these kind of things. One of my coworkers went to her first Google Summit a couple weeks ago and saw a demo slam, and now she wants to do one at one of our staff meetings. And she's like, "Do you think you can come up with some things for a demo slam?" And I'm like, absolutely, and now I've got like 8 or 9 more things to use at a demo slam. So,
oh yeah,
she doesn't stand a chance against me now in the demo slam.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, do you have a good prize? Are y'all going to be fighting over a really good prize?
We should, because she wants to try to get that experience of, at the end of a Google Summit, how you feel. You have all these new ideas you want to take back. She wants to try to get that feeling across to the other teachers so they can get involved in these kind of conferences too. So yeah, I'll need to come up with something to kind of get the excitement going more and see if
the wow factor. That's what
Yeah.
you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Up, and there's my track meet. And Kasey, just so that the listeners know, teachers rave about your website. You have so much more than just these Google tools there. You have so many tutorials, you have ideas, and it's so well designed. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Joan, and I really appreciate the opportunity to hang out with y'all tonight.
Outside and in.
Well, thanks again, and to the listeners, we will be back on again soon.